What do people with Asperger syndrome do when they are home alone, all by themselves? Well, I came up with 6 things, and let me know if you identify with any of these. And chances are, if you have a Asperger syndrome, if you are a person with Asperger syndrome, you could probably add to this list. So let me know if you can think of anything that I missed. But the first thing I came up with is people with Asperger's syndrome tend to feel relieved when they are by themselves. Get home alone, away from the stress, away from the tension, the pressure of being around other people, and all the sights and sounds that we find so frustrating. It is just a relief to get away from all that. So yeah, we just feel the sensation of comfort, of protection, having those 4 walls around us, and everything else, all those sights and sounds are elsewhere. They're outside. Number 2 is we sometimes feel exhausted. I mean, just tired. Now, I know that neurotypical people are typically, which is, I guess that's why we call them neurotypical, is they're typically exhilarated by some of the sights and sounds of a social activity. They love it. They go out and they just have a good time. I know people who look forward to going to the Indy 500 every year. I mean, that is the largest attended sporting event in existence, or it used to be. I don't know if it still is or not. But I cannot imagine being in the middle of that crowd. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people attend that or used to in recent years. But that would drive me absolutely positively crazy. All I could think of is, I need to get out of here. I need to get away from this. But neurotypical people, they actually thrive on that, but not so. Not so rather people with Asperger syndrome. That just wears us out. That makes us tired. We get exhausted, and it's not a big sporting event like the Indy 500 or maybe a Super Bowl or a football game or whatever. Sometimes it could just be in a busy restaurant, or maybe walking down the street or on a bus or wherever people congregate. At work, I used to get exhausted just going to church, just being around people. It seemed like I was the only one that had that experience. Everybody else was happy to be there. They liked to see their friends. Well, I did too, but they liked to socialize and interact with each other. What I wanted to do was get out of there because it was just wearing me thin. I just get tired. The one thing that I wanted to do when I went to church is get up and walk around. I mean, just get away from it. Number 3, when we are home alone, a lot of times we just feel, well, kind of nothing, just numb and don't really care about anything, and we don't care that we don't care about anything. Is that a good thing? I guess it could be, because sometimes feeling nothing is better than feeling something, but other times feeling something is better than feeling nothing. So I guess it depends on what you're not feeling is whether or not that's a good thing. But I was talking to somebody one time, and I asked him, what do you do when you get into a depressed funk? I mean, what do you do? And the person said, well, what I do is I just find something that makes me happy. Think happy thoughts was the response, but it was a little deeper than that. So they were saying, if you like listening to music, or you like listening to podcasts, well, kind of like this one, whatever it is that you enjoy doing alone, engage in that. And what you will find, the person explained, is the depression diminishes. Well, why do I say that? Because people with Asperger syndrome tend to be depressed. And sometimes that onset depression comes when they're home alone. Now with me, not so much. I get more depressed when I'm out and about and around people, because something about being excluded it's depressing. Number 4 is this: purposefully distracted. We just touched on that, but let's go into this a little bit more. When you are alone, who do you talk to? Talking about brain talk or mind talk, you're talking to yourself, right? Well, sometimes, I don't know, do you ever get bored talking to yourself and you want something to do that's a little more exhilarating than just sitting there doing nothing? I don't like sitting around doing nothing. So I will purposely, intentionally distract myself. I think that's usually a good thing. Well, how do you do that? Well, a lot of times, go out and take a walk. I'll walk a couple miles, maybe spend an hour just walking alone with my thoughts while I'm walking. Now, believe it or not, actually, I think this is kind of easy to believe that sometimes some of your most creative thoughts come while you are out walking. At least that's my experience. Some of the ideas for these videos, people wonder, how do you come up with a different idea five times a week? Well, a lot of that comes just from being out taking a walk. I mean, somehow they don't come to me when I'm sitting doing nothing, but when I'm physically engaged, somehow that affects your thinking ability or my thinking ability anyhow. So it helps. Another thing I do, we already mentioned, I think, is sometimes I just sit down and listen to music. Put on my headset, which helps to erase all the external noises, the dogs barking, the lawnmowers running, things like that. So I just get alone with me and my music, and you don't want to hear it, but sometimes I sing along. But we'll not do that and annoy you with such bothersome things. Number 5, what do we do when we're alone? Well, we engage in creative endeavors. People with Asperger syndrome are not all creative. We're not all people who do things with their hands, but I think most of us probably are. At least the people with Aspies with Asperger's that I have met. And we're not all alike, but typically, people with Asperger syndrome are mechanically minded. We like to make things. Now, I got to tell you, my aptitude is really not in mechanics, but I seem to be in the minority of people with Asperger syndrome. People with Asperger syndrome tend to love to make things, love to create things. Now, it could be working on an engine, or it could be making cupcakes. It's the putting of stuff together and making it come together so that it works. Number 6. Now, this may be hard for some of you to believe if you don't have Asperger syndrome. But there is something that people with Asperger syndrome do that may surprise you, and that is we think about other people. Well, Aspies, aren't they the people who are loners who try to get away from people? Yeah, we do. Because it causes tension, because it is stressful. But that's not to say that we don't like people. It's that we don't like the stress that comes with being around people. There's a huge difference. I mean, a huge difference. So people with Asperger syndrome, they have families. Obviously, they wouldn't be here. And it's not that they don't care about their families, it's that they don't like the trauma and the drama that comes along with being around other people, family or otherwise. But they do think about them, and they do care about them. And they may not express that care and companionship the way that other people do, but it's still there inside of them, and they still express it. They may not be as connective as other people or connected as other people, but they still are connected in their minds. So if you have a family member who has Asperger syndrome, and you've just kind of given up on this guy, or you've given up on this woman because, well, they don't contact you, they don't seem to care about you, I got to tell you, they actually do. And if you could read their minds, what they're thinking when they're home all alone, they're thinking about you and about other family members and friends. Maybe more so than other people. Do you see those 2 rectangles on the screen? If you like what you heard, I encourage you to click on one of those rectangles, and guess what? We just keep our conversation going. But if not, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you all next time.